What's going on? That's quicker than I thought. It's quicker than I thought. The garden report, I settle into that one for like 30-something seconds. I'm rocking out. That was abrupt, but that's fine. You might wonder, what am I looking at here? Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those of you who are expecting Andrew Callahan. It's not going to happen this week. But I will welcome you into another episode of the Pat's Interference Podcast. This is John Zannis. I'm filling in for your regular host, Andrew Callahan, or as some people like to call him, Dad. Congrats to Andrew, or as one person calls him. Well, when she starts to speak. Congrats to Andrew and his wife Alicia for welcoming their first child, Carmela Callahan, into the world over the weekend. I got to say, Mikey, as a former Channel 7 employee and someone who has a daughter named Zoe, I can appreciate the alliteration. So I do like that. This show, as you know, I'm keeping to traditions. This is going to be a very Callahan-y show as best I can. And I'm told there's this thing that we do. So in keeping with tradition, this show, as you know, is a proud member of the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, educational, sometimes confrontational CLNS Media Network. Go subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel for the video version of this show. And please rate and review the audio version of the show wherever it is that you happen to listen to your podcast. And welcome in Mike Giardi, a guy who I can't shake. I can't shake this guy professionally.
25 years?
It's
25 years,
insanely long time. Mike and I have hung out, but we're going to sit here and we're going to go over the Patriots win over the Tampa Bay Bucs. Now that Mike, and we've had a chance to kind of watch the game again, look at some film, go over it. And this is something that Mike and Andrew do every Monday night around this time, where they kind of go over what they saw, maybe some new opinions, some developing opinions. And let's get right into it, Mike. Based on record alone and the way the Patriots had been playing, it's hard to say that they weren't contenders before the game, but a lot of people had really put a big emphasis on this game, where it's like, this is a measuring stick, right? You got through Buffalo, but Buffalo played really poorly and might not be as good as we first thought anyway. So there's those things, but this was on the road, quality opponent, not great conditions. And this was the one where people really wanted to see, like, if they can hang and if they can win this one, I'm going to, even your boss, Bedard, what the hell is he doing right now? He's bought in. We had him on the postgame show yesterday. He was like smiling, Mike. I don't know what's wrong. It's weird.
Hey, he flew into Orlando, so he probably got some of that Disney fever over him before he was
pink, but he was like kind of grinning. I don't know.
I don't know if I know that.
He wrote about it. He's like, I give up. I'm not going to qualify these wins anymore. This team is real. Do you agree after this game? And if so, like, what's the reason why? What changed in your mind?
Yeah, I kind of came to this acceptance, if you will, like Greg did a week ago. And then after this game, we do a little quickie recap of the game on Boston Sports Journal. And we do these 3 thoughts that you might regret that you had later on. Oh. And I was like, they're a legit Super Bowl contender. They're going to be the number 1 seed in the AFC. And if all those things happen, then Drake Maye is going to be the MVP, assuming he continues to play at the level he has. And it's like, for the longest time, I was having a hard time wrapping my brain around the schedule, some of the opposition. You just like, look, I just, that's a nice win that they beat that team that by 18 points or whatever, but that team stinks. And you go to the next one and the next one. And then it was like, well, if they keep taking care of business, they can only do what's in front of them. And they were knocking all those things down. And then to go into this game, and look, Tampa Bay was not at full health. Neither were you, but I would argue that Tampa's absences were a little bit bigger than yours, but same thing. Turf, a grass field, you get rain, it's humid. You haven't dealt with that in a long time. And you got off to a slow start. And then, as they always seem to do, they found their footing. And when they found their footing, they built up a nice lead. It got a little chunky there for a bit, but they were able to close it out. And I don't know how you can look at them now with the way the coach is coaching, the way the quarterback is playing, and some of these pieces come together. It's like, it's all there. In many ways, John, I think I was saying this to you earlier, it's got a little 2001 feel to it. And this might actually be that was a pretty good team. I don't know if I want to say they're more talented, but every week it's somebody different. This week it was Trevion Henderson and Kyle Williams and Jack Gibbons on defense. The week before it's whatever, Jalen Hawkins. Like you're getting all these different things happening, and then you're getting consistent play from your star players, and it's like, just embrace it. This team is good and they feel it.
We've seen this in a lot of sports, Mike, where you don't like the 2001 Patriots seemed fluky, seemed like underdogs because you didn't know yet. And then you realized after, oh, there's some really good players here. But some of that stuff, you didn't really realize it until the next year or the year after, because the bones of that team, granted, they, added some enhancements as well, carried through into the whole Dynasty 1.0. You see it in a lot of different sports where it's like, oh, these guys are better than we thought. We've seen it locally too. You've seen it, recently, like Florida Panthers beat the Bruins, who were a top seed, as an 8 seed. And it's like, wow, an 8 seed. No, they were really good. Look what they've done with that and all of those players here. So that's kind of what happened. You do wonder, you mentioned these guys, like what could we be saying about Ponder or Woodson in 2 and 3 years? Are they going to be in the Pro Bowl? I'm not saying this, but I'm saying all of a sudden, if these guys step up and they're legit players, you look back on this year and you're like, oh, they had talent. We just didn't know that they had the talent. And I think that's what people are trying to figure out here, because you see the success, but then you compare it to like the Washington Commanders from a year ago. And it was like, well, that was kind of fluky. Are the Patriots the same thing? Is this just a good quarterback, a soft schedule, and a bunch of things breaking their way, and then they're going to come crashing back to earth? Or is this the beginning of something? But you're right. It does have that vibe. And for me, it's the reason you think it is because they're winning in ways those teams won as well. How many times, and you and I covered it from the beginning of that dynasty all the way through the old Patriots, they'd go into a building, play a game, they would leave there, the other team would be like, they got lucky, they this, they that, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And they didn't understand how they got beat, but like the Patriots would win because they were always going to win that game. You just happen not to know it. And you've got a little bit of that vibe, because this was one of those games where a different version of this team a year or two ago finds 50 ways to lose this game. And they put themselves in multiple positions to lose this game and didn't lose it, still found a way to win it, which is different.
Oh, and there's no question it's different. And it sort of goes into and there's no way to really quantify this. And it's sort of one of those things that we talk about and people write about, but the level of like belief and buy-in, it's so obvious. It's the touchdown by Stephon Diggs before the half. Go look at the replay from the sideline and go watch. Half the team goes streaming down to the corner of the end zone. Like there probably could have been a flag because people left the bench area. Like you're not supposed to do that, but it's just like they're pulling for each other. You watch some of the sideline shots. There was I think it was a Christian Gonzalez had a pass breakup, and it was Stephon Diggs is in the background. And you see Diggs like throw his hand, like just the excitement and the juice that they're bringing and giving each other. It's like they're feeding off of it. And that played a huge role, I think, in them winning this game, because one side ended up picking up the other side when they needed it until the other side kind of got their footing underneath them. And then, they iced the game. So there are a lot of similarities. There's a lot of belief, and they have become a lot of fun. I don't think there's any, especially after you watch the misery of Bill's final season. And that was just a death march all the way to the end. You can't say the quarterback's name. You got all that crap. I mean, it's just a disaster. And then obviously Giardi put into a position that he wasn't ready for, and that coaching staff's thrown together. And it's the same thing. You're watching it going, when is this going to be over? Like by mid-October, you're like, I'm ready. Like just blow the whole thing up, forfeit the rest of the games, and let's get into the offseason. And now this has come faster than I think anybody in their right mind would expect. Taylor notwithstanding. But in general, like even for them, right, John? Because this is the thing, and I like to bring this up. I probably have sprinkled it into an article every couple of weeks here. After their joint practices against Minnesota, the New England Patriots, the guys in there, the Mike Vrabels, John Strikers, like, hey, like there's something, people are getting a little ahead of themselves. Like it's going to take a little time. It's year one of the rebuild. It's year one of the rebuild. Well, they're 8-2. It's year one of the rebuild. And to your point, like it's here. It's all happening. Like you can't deny what has happened to this point. And who knows what happens next year. We'll deal with that when it comes, and how you deal with the better schedule and all the different things you're going to have to deal with. But for now, it's not even an overachievement anymore. They're just ahead of schedule. They're playing better than anyone thought they would. The quarterback has matured to a level that no one thought they were going to. And I mean, that's obviously massive, but the plan has been terrific too. The whole thing is coming together.
I never like to overreact to one game, because I do think that happens too much in a lot of sports dialogue. Quarterback plays great. Oh, they've arrived. They have a bad game. They're at least a year or two away. I think that too much can be placed in it. And if they did lay an egg here and lost, I don't know that it would have changed much. But what did change for me specifically is that they didn't play very well. And this is a type of game, like, it's not that they, you play good teams. Sometimes you're not going to look great, and the Bucs are a good team. But if you think about it, that Drake Maye had his lowest completion percentage of the season, 52%, not very efficient at all. He had a negative EPA in this game. He made a type of mistake that absolutely kills bad teams late in the game. And if the Bucs march down the field and score a touchdown, that's going to be marked in the, well, they're not ready for primetime column. But they overcame that as well. And so all of that stuff, coupled with, who are we looking at in this AFC that you're thinking, like, there are times where it's like, okay, you're playing well, but like when you get to the end of the line, this team's going to beat you by 150 points. That happens all the time. Like the Commanders, by the time they got to Philly, they were going to lose that game by 100 points, and everybody knew it, and they did. That was happening. They were not ready for that level of football. Who in the AFC right now are you like, they're not ready for that level of football? You look at the Bills, who just puked all over themselves against Miami. You look at the Colts, who struggled with an Atlanta team that you were on the way to blowing out last year before Maye made another critical mistake. They're not world beaters. You know that KC is coming, but they also laid an absolute egg last week against. So all of these teams are mortal and beatable, and your best effort might be good enough to win a game. It's not like we need to play great and they need to play poorly and maybe we catch some luck along the way. You actually might be able to string together a game that's good enough to beat most teams in this conference right now. NFC, I think, poses some different challenges, but that's the other reason why, is not just this game, but the snapshot of what's happening around the league has kind of changed my thinking of how close they are to actually potentially getting there this year, which is nuts.
Yeah. So Callahan got mad at me last week because he's like, do you feel better or worse about them going forward after they survived the Falcons? And I said, better. And he's like, well, why do you feel better? I'm like, because take a look around you and see what's happening. And he's like, oh, that's not like, that doesn't relate to them. I'm like, no, it absolutely relates to them, because you know that the quarterback on his best day is capable of going into Buffalo and beating Josh Allen and the Bills before we knew the Bills might have more flaws than we initially thought. Like they survived. I think that Saints game was a good test. Like, you're coming off this big win. You go down there, not an easy place to play. That team, I think is a little bit more talented. Not that they're good, but a little bit more talented. And you were in a little bit of a fight there, but you outlasted them. And then, put together a couple of games in which you just spanked the opposition. And it's just like, you can just feel it building and building and building. Whereas I think you look around and you say, yeah, Kansas City was the one, right? That it was like, oh, they're coming. And then they go into Buffalo and do what they have done in the regular season the last 5 years. And that's lose to Buffalo. And that doesn't obviously hasn't shaped them in the playoffs.
It might not mean anything.
Yeah, the reverse happens, but they were starting to come along. Indy's Daniel Jones is realizing that he's Daniel Jones. You start to pressure him now. His EPA when pressured the last 2 weeks has been hideous. So it's just
you throw Denver in the mix too. Like,
Bo
Nix is terrible. Denver with Drake Maye gets to the Super Bowl. That team's got everything, except for that one thing. The thing is, though, with the Patriots, you thought they only had that one thing.
Yeah.
Turns out they might have a little bit more than just that, and we'll get into it a little bit more as the show rolls on. Let's ask the question, very basic here, but what was it that the Patriots were able to do? Why were they able to win this game, Mike?
Yeah, so as I was hinting at there, the defense picked up the offense. We'll look at the big plays. That's the obvious answer, right? 3 explosive, 3 long touchdowns, perfect.
Sure.
But 21-16, your offense went into a shell. Tampa Bay had 3 drives. They went 6 plays, 8 yards, only 1 first down, punted. Punt turns from midfield, turns into a touchback. a 3-and-out drive, which of course you answered with a 3-and-out of your own. But then after the interception by Maye in the end zone, Tampa Bay puts together something. They're driving, and that's, of course, the 3rd down and 3. And then, of course, the all-out blitz on 4th and 3, in which K'Lavon Chaisson loops on the inside, a little 2-man game. And Michael Jordan, who was your starting guard for 12 weeks last year, before you cut your starting guard. He was responsible for Chaisson. Didn't pick the stunt up. Chaisson gets in there. Somehow Baker Mayfield, he ducked like 3 sacks there. Chaisson had him. Craig Woodson had him. Milton Williams had him, and he still.
They should have blown that dead.
Yeah, managed to get it out, but everybody kept playing, and you stopped them short on 4th down. So then all of a sudden, it was the next 2 plays later, Trevion Henderson goes 69 yards for the touchdown, and now you're back up 28-16. Everybody can exhale. You're going to win the football game. But in that moment, the most important thing was the defense stepping up when the offense had lost its footing, and they preserved the lead, and then eventually the offense, with one big play, got back underneath them, and it was a ball game.
Yeah, and those 3 drives there where the Patriots really stalled out, but also you have to look at immediately, same exact thing with the defense immediately after Drake Maye throws that interception. And huge, cojones there to stop up, as you said there, and then Henderson ices it. So all of that stuff was terrific. If I'm going to say one thing in addition, I agree with you 100% that their defense stepping up when the offense was faltering was huge there. And that's that complementary football, which is one side picking up the other, as you mentioned at the top of the show. One thing I'll say low key that I thought was really important in this game was the commitment to the run. Because, it's easy to say that, well, they had those 3 big plays, and if they don't have those, if you're on the Bucs side, you're probably saying, if we just tackle and don't allow that, we're fine. But again, it's the body blows. You're setting them up, and you're setting up, and you're setting them up. I mean, outside of those 2 runs, the Patriots had 25 runs for 42. That includes Drake Maye. Running backs themselves, outside of Henderson, 69, 55, and 16, picked up 13 yards on 16 carries outside of those. That's less than 1 yard per carry. That's atrocious. But again, you just keep doing that. It sets up your play action, which they ran effectively, and they did well off of their few play action passes. And you hit those home runs largely because, they got to respect it. They got to suck in. And when they do, boom, you bounced it. And that's what happened. So I'm amazed that hasn't happened sooner with Henderson, to be honest, because I would have thought by now he would have found his way to get into the secondary one time and take off. But that commitment to the run really opened up that aspect of their game. And I think a lot of coaching staffs would have abandoned it earlier, put it in Drake's hands, because they'd say, well, I've got Drake Maye. He's playing as well as anybody in the world right now. Put him in shotgun, drop back, and throwing the ball 55 times. You see that stuff happen all the time. And probably a lot of fans were clamoring for it. And they didn't do that. And I think that paid out. So I'm going to give a hat tip to them for staying with it, even though when I was watching too, I'm like, oh my God. I was like, you guys are done. It's like, because they put him in a lot of 2nd and longs and 3rd and long. And I thought that contributed to Maye's overall struggles, was they were just having a really tough time there.
Well, what's funny about that too is, like, in rewatching the game today and charting the game today, it was like, a lot of times you'll look at a failed run play and be like, well, whatever. Jared Wilson didn't hold up at the point of attack. He got beat. Play's over. There were a lot of plays where I wrote down just multiple, because there are multiple guys failing at the point of attack. Sometimes it was even coming from the backside where a guy just didn't make his block, and the next thing you know, this guy's running unencumbered into the backfield and making a tackle in the backfield or at the line of scrimmage. So I think the success rate was around 20% when running backs ran the ball in this game, which is really low. It just so happened that they ended up with 3 explosive runs out of it, including 2 that went for touchdowns. And to your Henderson point, John, I've talked about a lot in this show. He hasn't been patient enough. He's so damn fast that he wants to go. He wants to go.
Yeah, he's running into the backside.
He's running into contact so many times. And just like, if you gave it just that little heartbeat, that heartbeat could change the entirety of the play and turn a negative run into a positive, or turn a short run into a long one.
He's got to go watch like hours of Le'Veon Bell tape,
that might be to the extreme, but I get your point. Yeah.
But just where is it? Where is that hole? Like, just stand around and kind of stare and look at it. Also, he could do the Danny Woodhead thing. He's kind of small. Just duck. and they can't see you, and then find it and pick it and just go,
I
So
mean, in many ways, the 69-yarder was kind of like that. It wasn't really much there, and he was sort of like, there were a lot of bodies. Tonga was in front of him, like bodies are flying all over the place, and he just kind of, found the seam and he went.
Yeah. So, but again, they committed to it, and you're right, it pays off, and he's done a better job with that. I think he's been more patient waiting for blockers, but he's still a little bit, you're right, sometimes it's almost like a heat-seeking missile directly into somebody because he's trying to be decisive. You see so many young running backs not hit the hole hard or be tentative, and I know that the Patriots coaching staff really, really emphasizes don't take negative plays. That's a killer. It's a drive killer here. You're trying to string it together. You can't get eaten up for 2 and 3 yards sitting there and waiting for it. So he's probably trying to balance that,
And there was the whole ball security thing because what was going on with Ramondre, and then he put it on the ground a couple times. So that's part of it too. Like, now you're the guy because Ramondre's out. We can't, you got to take care of the football. It's hard to I think we saw Ramondre. It took a little while for Ramondre to get over the fumbling thing again and be like, just be a natural runner. You just got to make sure that when contact's coming, you brace yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. So we talked about it a bit through the beginning of this here, but now you've gotten to watch, the film here, and it was a weird Drake Maye game, right? Yeah. And again, you could say, and you and I talked about this offline, I'll steal a little of your thunder, but I totally agree with it. He was so close to, if not actually perfect for that 4-week stretch there where all of a sudden he vaulted himself into the MVP conversation and all of that with an almost unsustainable deep ball rate in terms of his completion percentage there, and just stuff that, was so otherworldly. Like I know Andrew said at one time, he's like, I'm afraid to say what I'm thinking here, but it's like, this is better than anything. Like, this is better than the other guy. Like, I don't want to say it, but holy crap. And so even coming back down to earth, and I tweeted this, like, I don't think Drake Maye, one of the cool things, I think he doesn't have bad games. He has some bad moments because, again, you can't look at this and just look at numbers and be like, that was a bad game, because there's so many things he did that so few people could do. But again, it's 16 for 31, accurate throw percentage was 60%, under pressure, 4 of 11, though he was a little bit better against the blitz. And he was only 1 of 5 on balls, 20 yards downfield, and 4 of 8, 10 to 19 yards downfield, including an interception. So those were not the type of numbers we've been seeing from him at all. If you just looked at the numbers, and then looked at, just the critical interception that he threw late, you'd be like, this was not a good game, but it wasn't a bad game either.
Yeah, it's interesting. So we do 3 studs and 3 duds after the game, and I had him as I was doing it. So I had him as one of the duds, and you can't. And I'm like, he's a real big reason why they won the game. But he also put them in jeopardy with the interception in the end zone, which was, you're up 5 points at that point. Like, you're getting a field goal out of it at the very least. So you're forcing Tampa to score a touchdown and then get the 2-point conversion if it comes to that. And the other part of it was the play 3 plays before when he flushes himself to the right and there's nothing there. And he's waiting to make a play and he ends up putting himself in harm's way and he gets the hit, which a lot of people have pointed, it's helmet to helmet. The kid, I'm not trying to defend him because it was borderline, but the kid hit him with his shoulder pad first. And then the contact was made with the head. So that's why there was no flag there. People are like, it's targeting. Well, this is not college. This is the pros. And it wasn't targeting. But he put himself in that spot. And he does it in the pocket. You're going to get hit. It's going to happen. Vita Vea was causing all kinds of problems. Hit him 3 or 4 times in the game. Like, that's just going to happen. There are really good players on the other side. They get paid to. You're going to take some hits in the pocket to either make a play or you're just going to take the sack. But when you get out of the pocket, he's got to do a better job of protecting himself. There was another play. It's the third quarter. He rolls to his right. It's the one where he took out.
The one he almost got Henderson killed. He didn't need to take that shot.
But he took he went down awkwardly. It was a really weird play. And it was like, those are the kind of things you look back on and go, man, just freaking throw the damn ball away or just get down. Like, that extra half yard doesn't mean a friggin' thing right there, especially because when you look at what's happened when they've been in these 3rd and long situations, he's been converting at a stupid rate as well. So it's like, dude, just lift the play the next down and, whatever. That he put himself in a bad spot. Then a few plays later, he throws the interception and the defense has to bail him out on the 4th and 3 stop coming down the opposite end of the field. But then, John, and I wrote it down, there were 4 throws in this game.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are more, but there are 4 that just stand out. The one to Kyle Williams in the touchdown, which in the moment that it happened, I didn't realize the hit that he took. So that just made it, as I'm watching the replay, that just made it all the better. And he got a little help there from the corner in the sense that the corner tried to undercut the route, and he probably would have been better off just, hey, play the man, play the hands, and it's a 12-yard gain. Instead, he tries to undercut it. Drake puts the ball perfectly. It's layered, it's feathered, it's on the spot. Kyle never breaks stride, and as we saw, he's really fast. So touchdown. The Mac Hollins crosser, and I took a screenshot of this because the NFL with their stupid, we can't put video out there, except I see it all over the place, not just from fans because they don't care about fans.
Credentialed media can't do it. Anybody with a credit card can, but you can't.
Insane. And I know I gave Taylor a hug when that news came out because then it bummed him out. But so I put the screenshot. Vita Vea breaks in. He's moving to his left. Vita Vea is closing in on him. What did he learn from last week when Jalen Walker punched the ball out of his hands? Hey, dummy, 2 hands on the football. Like that's the, and not that he's a dummy, but you know what I mean? Like you've got to protect the football. So you've got this shot of Vita Vea, 350 something pounds, ready to crush you. And he's got the ball with both hands slightly away from his body, sidesteps that, manages to trigger his body into a throwing motion. There are 3 more defenders. That's the second shot I took that's on my Twitter page of them barreling at him. He completes a 15-yard dart to Mac Hollins over the middle of the field. Dude, that is a throw that very few people in the National Football League are going to attempt, be able to get off, and then put it right on the guy as he did. And then, of course, the Hollins deep throw, 54 yards. He'd gone deep to play before, overthrow, second
also
one.
gets smacked.
Yep, absolutely. And Hollins gets a lot of credit, too, because it was a nice little late separation from him. But the ball is just a beautiful, beautiful pass. And I forgot the Diggs touchdown, which was awesome. If you watch Diggs, you were talking about patience. The patience of him at the line of scrimmage, because it was he and Hunter Henry, it was a little 2-man game. And he pause, and it's just like a young player is going to rush that. He didn't rush it. And then when he made his cut, he got past Antoine Winfield, who's a very good defensive back, granted a safety, but plays in the nickel a lot as well. And then goes up and gets it's a really nice catch, but it was a really nice throw because there was only one guy that was going to get that football. If it didn't go to Diggs, it was going to go out of bounds. And I mean, right there, the beautiful sort of contrast to a couple mistakes here, a couple mistakes there, maybe struggling with the wet ball early into, boy, he made some really important plays in some important moments in the football game. And again, I put him as a dud, but you're not winning without him. There's no questions asked.
Exactly. And you mentioned that first throw. In the moment, I appreciated the precision of the throw itself, but on second glance, going back and looking at it, and Greg wrote about it in his 3 plays over on Boston Sports Journal as well. But it's really interesting when you watch it again. He does have Hollins going over the middle, and it's a good gain there. He just had to wait 1 second for him to kind of clear, and he can hit him in stride going across the field for a 20-something yard gain. There was defense there that was probably going to keep him out of the end zone, but that's fine. And at the very last second, with his foot pointed to the middle of the field, he sees Williams and he turns just his shoulders and throws it with such touch, with bad footwork at that point. Because so to me, it wasn't just the difficulty of the throw based on the fact that he's pointed in the wrong direction. But he not only saw a tougher throw, he had to have seen a much tougher throw that was going to result in a touchdown if he could get it there, because he saw the other safety was following Hollins this way and the whole part of that field was open. And if I can layer it over this corner, Kyle is gone, and he hits it perfectly. And you know what the throw reminded me of a little bit? It reminded me of the Tom Brady, the first touchdown in Super Bowl 39 to David Givens, when he's over here at the goal line, he's looking, and it was the same thing. He steps and he turns and he throws it, and he kind of floated it. And I was like, this is going to be a pick 6 when the ball left his hands, but it was perfect. And it was right there. And we're doing the dirty bird. And that was that was their first score of the game. It reminded me very much of that throw when I looked at the way his body was positioned and how he threw it. It was a brilliant, brilliant throw. But the fact that he had to know, this is this is the right play because he's gone if I get it to him here. And he took that shot, and it ended up paying out.
John, he did. So on the Pop Douglas play, the splash play to Pop that went for 25 yards. So they blitz the nickel and they drop the outside linebacker edge guy to fill the spot of the nickel. So Pop, he sees that Pop's going to have the outside linebacker slash edge rusher on him. So like that's where he went. Hunter Henry is in the opposite seam, sitting there within like 10 yards of him, like 15 even. And he makes the tougher throw to Pop because Pop was out, it was like not covered, but I mean, there was a body closer to him. There was no one anywhere near Hunter Henry, but he was like, this is where the blitz is coming from. And I'm going to make them pay for it. And he did. But if you look at the other thing, it's like, it could have been like the easiest. He could have thrown that thing left-handed to Hunter Henry and still gained 20 yards, but he makes the more difficult throw to Pop and still gets the splash play out of it.
And that's the one where Pop's got to check his shoes a little bit because
right?
he's just stumbling all over the place. I swear he'd have 3 more touchdowns right now, but he keeps losing his footing on some of these longer runs. That was one of them there as well. But that was great. So again, I think that is the major takeaway here is that the bad plays were not, except for the interception, damaging bad. Even I think the sack, he takes 1 sack against a Bucs defense that, was in by every metric, really good at getting after the quarterback. And you've got Bowles, who's an absolute, just gets in them, just mind F's quarterbacks with, bringing pressure and disguising coverages and all of these things. I was super, super impressed by the things you mentioned, standing in the pocket to take hits all the time when it was coming and not getting flustered or rattled by the consistent pressure there. And then just the quality of those plays that very, very, very few people could make, being able to do that and kind of bounce back, and the short-term memory that he has of like, okay, that was a bad throw and I'm going to come right back and I'm going to do something else. It just takes a lot of moxie to be able to kind of go about that. The way that he did here. It was far from perfect, but again, a different guy, gets eaten up in this game.
John, one more thing too. You're talking about Bowles, and he's the coverage disguises. They're the most disguised coverage team in the league. Obviously, bringing pressure from everywhere. You don't know where it's coming from. There's a lot of second and third level pressures that you can't even account for when you're calling out who's the Mike linebacker and who's picking up who. They're great at doing that. You know what Todd Bowles did in this game? He didn't blitz a lot. In fact, in the second half, there were a number of occasions where they rushed 3 and had a spy on Drake Maye because they were so concerned about his legs in those moments. And it's just, Drake is getting such an education now because of the different approaches that he's seeing week in and week out. Atlanta bringing 5 guys constantly, sometimes 6, and a lot of like trying to individual to size up guys individually on players and matchups that they wanted and hunt those. And he handled that until the fumble, and obviously took him a little while to get his feet underneath him again in the second half of that game. But in this game, like, you're thinking it could be one thing. And Josh McDaniels did kind of warn. He's like, played against him a lot, and he's either going to blitz you like crazy or he's going to back off. And then you're trying to figure out what's his plan. What's he trying to do here? What are we showing him that he's doing it this way to us? And there was a lot of that where just rushing 4, which they still did a pretty good job creating pressure. I believe Next Gen had 17 total quarterback pressures on the 31 actual throws. So, but again, standing in there, taking the hit on the play before the Hollins long completion, then delivering it again with the same type of pressure and the same type of contact says a lot about how tough that quarterback is.
Yeah, I think it was the numbers I had pulled was he pressured on 44% of his dropbacks. Again, only sacked once despite that, and it was a 1-yard sack. I actually think that that's something that everyone talks about, the amount of sacks Drake Maye is taking this year and how that's a blemish, and some of those are forced. And you're right, he could probably throw it away, but I don't think there's a huge difference between a 1-yard sack and throwing the ball away. And a lot of times he's just saying, I'm just going to duck it and kind of run into the line here. And he's not taking 7, 8, 10-yard sacks, which are absolute drive killers. So you can live with those there. You're right. They brought an extra guy 10 times, and he was 6 of 10 in that with 2 touchdowns. So there's a reason why you're not blitzing him, because he's killing the blitz right now. So not surprising that Bowles would try to do what he did, drop a bunch of guys in there. I think that led to some confusion and some inaccuracy there because he was trying to read what was going on in front of him while they were still able to get a little bit of pressure with only that 4. And that kind of explains why I think that the completion percentage in those numbers were way off from where they normally did. He didn't have a lot of dunkers, right in front of him. He had to work for a lot of what he got. And so it was a grind, but I definitely think, again, upon further review, it might have been a dud at first watch. Now, if you had to flip it again, would you put him at least in the neutral, if not the positive category?
I would have put him in both categories. I would have cheated.
Yeah.
Like, you don't win without him, so he belongs
Right.
in the stud. But the dud part is don't take that hit. Because, look, as I said, the shoulder first, but then there was head contact, and he was a little sluggish coming off that play. We've had these issues with the contact to the head and having to come off the field. I'll tell you what, I don't know what the spotters do. Go back and look at the Jackson Dart concussion from this weekend, where he literally, his arms go limp. He doesn't even attempt to recover the fumble. They didn't call down. He stayed in the game. And it was Daboll who was like, something ain't right with him. And they took him out of the game. Of course, that got Daboll fired. I mean, that's not why Daboll got fired, but he got fired today. But it's just,
I don't think it helped. Yeah.
But a few plays later, he throws the interception. I don't know. Can you correlate the two? Is he just not totally feeling great there in that moment? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We march on, and again, there'll be more Drake Maye as we kind of roll through the rest of the show. Before we do that, we do need to tell the fine folks at home about our sponsor here at Pat's Interference and the entire CLNS Media Network, and that, of course, is Prize Picks. If you see the offer there on the screen, you know all about it right now. Download the app, use code CLNS, get 50 in your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And it's a great time of year for this sort of thing, Mike, because it's every season. I mean, we don't have baseball anymore, but you got multiple sports. That's one of the cool things about Prize Picks, mix and match sports. I don't like to do that. I like to kind of focus in on a block of games, 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or one game, and play it that way. But all you got to do, pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, get your picks right. You could cash in up to 2,000 times your cash. Lots of cool features, including free squares, which you can basically just a gimme you insert into your lineup. It makes it that much easier for your lineups to hit. There's flex plays, which means you can cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You have injury reboots. Things don't work out for you. Someone gets hurt early in a game and leaves. They get taken off the board. You don't have to worry about that. So again, you see it on the screen right now. This is the offer. Download the app, code CLNS. Get 50 in your lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, download the app, code CLNS. That's 50 in your lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. That's the slogan. It's good to be, that's like my motto. It's good to be right.
It's good
it
to
is.
Be right. Sometimes
it's
I
good.
am, sometimes I'm not.
Hey, you said it about Taylor Kyles. If bullies like you and me didn't beat the crap out of him over that 13-win prediction, and he stood his ground, he's young, he'll get it. Stand your ground, Taylor. He would be out here with his chest out to here, like, I told you, MFers. But he backtracked a little bit, and now oh, I didn't say they would win 13. I said they could win 13. He should have stayed with it. Taylor was right. We were all wrong.
It's also like, what did he think they were going to win the year before and the year before? Like, you can't keep predicting 10, 12 wins and they win 4, but you take your victories, because this looks like, I actually joking with him, he might be wrong. They might win 14 games.
Yeah, it's possible. This could be an imposter, but it could be Andrew Callahan popping in here.
That was me.
Here.
That was me. I don't know why it came up as the comment Andrew Callahan.
Oh, you put it directly. I know why it came in there. I know why. Because when you type it into the bottom, every account that's linked to it spits it out. So it came out there.
There you go.
It came out there. We roll on, and let me see where we're going next after this, because I was having too much fun talking about Taylor's prediction here. What did we miss? I did want to ask that. Again, this is the benefit of looking at the tape the next day. Is there anything you saw here that you didn't pick up at first glance from the offense?
Yeah, so I mentioned that Bulls didn't blitz a ton. On the first Trevion Henderson touchdown, Hunter Henry, I don't know how they didn't call holding. He gets beat to the inside, and he wraps his hand around the kid's waist. The funny thing is, on that play, that guy didn't complain. Mac Hollins was right behind him, hitting the defensive back. And the moment the defensive back went down, he immediately shot up and threw his arms up like he got held. I couldn't see it on the tape, but I could clearly see Hunter Henry's on the tape. So that was one. you don't see it a ton when you're watching the actual game, because they don't, unless they're isolating on the receiver. But the physicality and the footwork, which has surprised me a little bit with Mac Hollins at the top of his routes, it's good stuff. Like, he's fit his role nicely. He wasn't great blocking yesterday, which obviously a big part of what he does, but he was catching the football quite a bit. He went over 100 yards for the first time this year, as they continue to have a bunch of different guys lead the team in receiving every week. But just if you ever get a chance to see sort of what he does at the top of the route to help create separation, and I love the way he comes back to the football when he's running these curls or comebacks and Drake puts the ball out there. He attacks the football. And in one case, it actually cost him the first down, because he sort of levitated over about 2 yards catching the ball, and his feet came down inside the chains, and they didn't give him the first down, rightly so. But like, he's doing a great job there. Not the cleanest game from Will Campbell at left tackle. Multiple pressures. He had early, especially the first 3 drives at him for 3 pressures. He settled down for a good stretch. Then a couple popped up late in the game. Look, it's still way better than anything they got last year. He's been a positive for them, no question. His attitude in the run game, and I think he's gotten the last few weeks, because we kind of felt like going into the year he's already an above average run blocker rather. But then it sort of, much like everything else there, he was kind of responsible for some of the stuff. I mean, they all were. They just weren't moving enough people.
They're not running left.
Yeah. No. Their most success is happening on the right, although they
popped one late. Yeah.
But if you look at that one was muddy as all get out. He did have a decent block on that one. Jared Wilson did as well. Tonga wiped out Jared Wilson with his block and a guy. I forget who the tight end was on that play. Managed to get just enough of the defender to crease it up for Henderson. And the last thing I was going to say is, and this has nothing to do with, well, it has everything to do with the Patriots offense. Vita Vea is a freaking beast. He's like a top 20 player. There's no way, like, we look at Chris Jones and what he did for Kansas City and how he could change games. Chris Jones is like 6'7", 310 pounds. Vita Vea is 6'2", maybe 6'3", but
360. Yeah.
He moves like no 360-pound human. His pass rush, like legit, he won on pass rush multiple times. Just power, speed, quickness, like all that stuff that guy should not have in his arsenal, but he does. He's awesome. He can wreck games.
Yeah. So again, from a game plan perspective, is there anything you thought the Patriots were trying to do that they failed to do? And again, established a run, you could say, but when you're watching this thing, did you get a sense that like they wanted to approach the game offensively one particular way and the Bucs changed them up?
No, I think it was what you said earlier. Like, they were going to run the football and stick with the run as much as you could in that instance. And with the hope of, again, what have we seen from Henderson? Even this improved production the last couple of weeks, the best runs are ones that are coming outside the tackle box, where you can get him outside, whether he's bouncing or whether it's designed in that manner to get him, get up full speed. And then because he's so fast, he's generating a ton of power. He can run through an arm tackle, as he did last week against Atlanta on one of his long runs. He did that again in this game. But like, it's sort of, we're going to do this because we have to. We can't just put this all on Drake Maye. We can't risk him dropping back 45 times against the Todd Bowles defense. More bad is going to come out of that the more we keep doing it, even though, again, Drake is playing at a really high level. So I think that was just part of it. Like, just sort of a throwback to week 1, right? When they gave up on the run against the Raiders. And I didn't blame them. And I know that was a big talking point after the game. And, Vrabel talking about, we got to have a better run plan and all these things. Your guys weren't moving anybody up front. It was literally pointless. You were literally putting yourself in 2nd and long or 3rd and long anytime you tried to hand the ball off in that game. They've gotten a little bit better at it. Now they've gotten a lot better at it at various points in the second half of the season. So I think they're also a little thrown off too by Drake's inaccuracy early. I think the wet ball did bother him. He had 3 or 4 misses, and he was 2 for 7 to start the game. 3 or 4 of those misses were like bad misses, like not close. So, it was kind of a moment where you're like, ooh, let's see what happens here.
Well, yeah.
But again, he settled down enough.
I don't want to put this in a time to panic mode, but I did want to address that particular topic. I jokingly tweeted about like, I don't like seeing Drake not be able to throw in adverse conditions, because this is New England and we're heading into December and January, and you might have 1 or 2 home playoff games. Like, it's not going to be awesome here. This isn't a dome team. So I don't know. I mean, if it was, and again, the small hands quarterback situation, again, he doesn't have gigantic mitts there. No. And that's always something that can come up when situations like this arise. It was only a light sprinkle here. Yeah. And so I wonder, was it the conditions or just the classic, I'm amped up early in the game and I kind of throw high for the first series? Look, the 2 things you can bank on: Drake Maye is going to sail every throw on his first possession. The Patriots are going to give up a touchdown. Like these are just the rules of how the season goes, and then you work it out from there. It's almost, you throw that first, the first series for both teams out, and then you start the game.
Yeah, can we get prize picks on that? Can we have more or less points scored on the first drive by the opposition against the Patriots, and Drake Maye throws over someone's head on the first drive?
Yeah, sailed throws. I would like to see that, because I do wonder, because you see it a lot early. He's amped up and he's throwing it, but these looked worse. These looked like weird ducky like floaters, inaccurate. And I do wonder if it was the ball or just that I didn't like what I saw, and I already cocked my arm back to throw, and now I'm stuck in between, and I a half throw away, half throw, rather than just a dead miss. But I don't know, like, could you tell watching?
No, I mean, it was hard. I will say too that sometimes the humidity can come into play too, because the ball is going to be slick when it's humid, and now you're throwing in. It literally it started to rain when they got the football, so like an immediate sort of jolt of like, oh, but were we necessarily anticipating this? And you have to wonder how much he worked with a wet ball during the course of the week. And it's something that I can guarantee you going forward, especially as you said, we're entering the months of football where it's just going to be crappy weather. You're going to get some of that stuff, that they will do more of that. The Belichick, let's dip the balls in all the footballs in a bucket of water or whatever.
And play some really loud Bon Jovi and mess with you guys. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Please don't do that, Mike. No Bon Jovi. I'm all set.
No, don't do it. Let's switch over to the defensive side again. Looking at the tape and seeing everything here. Anything you missed? I wouldn't say missed, but the one thing that kind of popped for me is just, you don't see this defensive line getting pushed back as much as they did. They definitely got, I wouldn't say blown off the ball, but for the first time ever, they weren't clearly winning the line of scrimmage. This is the first time we've seen it.
Yeah. It was funny because I went back and looked at it. So the Patriots came into the game allowing just 75 yards per game in the run game, which is best in the National Football League. Obviously, we know the streak they had going in, 9 straight games of not allowing a running back over 50 yards in a single game, and that was broken. They gave up 113 yards rushing in the game. And some of it was running behind Tristan Wirfs, who, as Milton Williams said to us today, he's like, dude, he's one of the best left tackles in football, and they use him a lot in the run game. It's not just, you're not just there to protect Baker's blind side. He's also a weapon in the run game, and you saw some of that. He moved people, and they were able to pick up some yards behind him. The one thing that I don't want to say I didn't like, but had been different than in recent weeks is they didn't have as many layers. It's one of the things they talk about quite a bit, because as you watch them, their ends always knife inside. It's the anti-Belichick thing. Belichick wanted to force everything to the inside. They're trying to bounce, so they force inside. And what it is then it's a linebacker or Marcus Jones, and then another linebacker or safety flowing over the top. And in a lot of cases in this game, a lot actually, probably 7 or 8 runs, it was like there was one guy there, and there was a gap, and it was more of you're not just filling this tiny little space and the guy's got nowhere to run and he runs into you. This was, no, I've got 4 or 5 yards I can play with here because the hole's big enough, and where's the cavalry? And there were a couple of times where linebackers got picked off at the second level. Spillane got covered up on a longish run, whatever, 10, 11-yard run. So they had some issues with that. But again, generally speaking, still pretty solid, still effectively, not as much as in recent weeks, but still effectively forced Tampa Bay to be a little bit more of a pass-heavy team, because they're eliminating a lot of stuff. And there was a couple plays too where guys just made really good cuts. flow to the ball. There's nothing there. I think it was early in the game. Rashad White ends up with a 6-yard gain when it should have been a 2-yard loss. He just bounced and literally went from the right side all the way to the left side. Guys had over pursued on the back end, and all of a sudden when he kicks out there, he doesn't have the speed to run away from people, but he was able to pick up a positive play where, in previous weeks that was going for a -2.
Yeah, no doubt. Moving on to, and again, you have a chance to amend this now, but we're going to do studs and duds one more time. And I'll ask you the obvious studs. It's impossible not to put Travion Henderson in there with those explosive plays. And sure, throw in the rook as well, Kyle Williams. But any other people here that you want to give on the stud side of things a little bit of recognition to, maybe guys who didn't get it the first time through?
Yeah, I mean, when we talked about Hollins, he has to be on there. Stephon Diggs, obviously, again, not a massively productive day, but settled Drake down early, couple fingertip grabs where the ball was high early in the game. He made those catches, then obviously the touchdown, which, elevation, footwork, all great stuff. Christian Gonzalez, not perfect, but pretty damn good, and made life very hard for Emeka Egbuka when he was covering him tight man-to-man. They played some off coverage, which is where Egbuka had a couple of his big plays. There was the pass interference down the sideline as well.
Two catches, 8 targets, 35 yards, but one of those he slipped as well. And so the PI was probably the worst one there, which he probably could have just played that one straight. He just got a little grabby on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was a pretty clean game from Gonzalez there. People see the big stat line from Egbuka and wonder a lot of that happened in zone.
Yeah, much of it happened in zone. The one thing I will tell you, and I didn't ask anyone today, and I meant to, was on the first touchdown, Egbuka all alone. Different people you talk to, media-wise, were they were in zone or they were in man. And I just got to ask Marcus, hey, was that your guy or was that Christian?
You cover the wrong guy?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not going to assign blame without having dug into it and actually got the answer. And Milton Williams, again, Milton's got 3.5 sacks this year, and you're saying we paid that much money for a guy with 3.5 sacks? Engine constantly moving, disruptive. Yeah. You see him a lot of times on screen plays or little swing passes or even wide receiver screens where Milton Williams is out there. He recognizes it, reads it, and then hustles his ass down the line, gets in on a tackle. He's a really good football player and has made them, we talk about the parts of the team and not sure, he's a damn good football player. I don't know if he's going to be an all-pro here because I don't know if he's ever going to have those sorts of numbers, but thus far that money has been well spent.
Yeah, I'm going to throw a little little love towards Michael Onwenu. I think he's caught a little bit of flack this year. I thought he sprung a couple of big runs here. Mm-hmm. Overall, held up pretty well in this game. And you got to give some love to Tonga as well for coming in there. He's a good football player all around, but the stuff that's happening on the offensive side of the ball, he's just clearing out bodies. And it's been a really effective weapon that they've used here. So, and it's fun to see it. And also just the way that they all respond to it when he goes in the game. It's just adding to the general vibes of this team. Look at this big, crazy monster we got back here. He
wants to hit somebody and he
wants to hit somebody. Yeah.
There was a play down the goal line on the drive right before half when on the first play, clearly Drake Maye wasn't trying to get in. I don't know why they won't admit that was the case, that he wasn't trying to get in and they were trying to fudge.
I don't get that. Yeah.
But the Henderson inside run where what ended up happening was Tonga led the way and smashed whoever was in front of them, but there was leakage off Morgan Moses. And I don't know, Henderson didn't directly follow Tonga. He sort of slipped a little bit towards the right, towards the center, and that allowed the defensive tackle or defensive end to get up under his legs and stop him short of the goal line. But go watch that block. That's real fullback bleep. That he brought it. He brought it there for sure.
Yeah. Have you any duds in this game that we haven't talked about already?
So Henry and Hooper as run blockers, no bueno, and that's not necessarily a surprise. They're just they give effort. They're not good at it. They've never really been good at it. So there's that. Yeah. I thought Harold Landry, pretty quiet. Again, a lot of, they blitzed some, but a lot of 4-man rush and Harold Landry, not really a part of the equation. There was one play where he peeled off, was a short completion, and he was running with a little hitch in his step that I haven't quite noticed in recent weeks. And I know, look, he got hurt in that Saints game. and I don't think he's been the same player since when he got that, his knee. It was friendly fire, but his knee and his ankle, they listed as an ankle. I don't think he's been the same guy since. He's still out there. He's still solid against the run, but I don't think you're getting quite the bang for your buck as a pass rusher. And I also thought it was a really quiet game, second week in a row for Christian Barmore. Didn't see a whole lot there. Got hurt, came back in the game. They listed him as questionable almost immediately with the back, and then he was back in the game. I didn't actually keep track of how many plays thereafter he was in, but he was in. So I don't know. They need more from him because Mike's talked about it. If we're going to rush 4, the 2 guys in the interior have got to be disruptive. Milton's giving you that. Barmore had been on like a 5-game heater before the Falcons game, but now that's 2 in a row where he's sort of been on the downside.
It's kind of sneaky. People don't think about it because you're always thinking about like the tight ends being safety valves for the quarterback, and again, they don't have they don't have a ton of playmakers in the receiving corps. So you see Drake hitting those guys on their seam routes or kind of on their third downs, and really judged mainly on that. But the run blocking really is a thing. You wouldn't think, but entering the year, I mean eventually you're going to need more help at the tight end position, but it's become a pretty sneaky need, not just for the Patriots, but league wide. You see the trend going on with the 6'0" lineman or, the big ass blocking tight end, like your Jackson Hawes in Buffalo.
Yep.
And like these guys' inability to act as a 6th lineman, I think, is another reason why the run game is suffering. You see, I mean, I can't remember, you've got teams, I think the Rams, who you think of this high flying team, ran 13 personnel on like 40% of their, so you're seeing a lot more of this right now because of the ability to run out of those formations and to pass to these guys. And you don't have that dual threat there with these tight ends. And it is stunting their offense a little bit here, especially with the lack of like super dynamic playmakers on the outside or in the receiving core. So that's something that's I think a critical need heading into next year.
I kind of wanted them to address it in this past draft. And like, I can't go back now and say like, based on who they pick, where they picked them, I wasn't going to really argue any of the picks. I felt like the first 4 in particular were like, yeah, that makes sense. I understand why they would do that, but it is something that they're going to have. It's a market they're going to have to be involved in. And it would make sense if it's a young player as opposed to, going out via free agency and trying to buy someone that way. But again, trying to find that guy who allows you, like, look at Dalton Kincaid has become the best receiver for Buffalo. They can't run when he's on the field.
He plays 25% of snaps because he's useless, right?
Yeah, it's like he's this really good weapon as a pass catcher, but when he's out there, it's a tell. You're throwing the ball 90% of the time he's on the field because he can't block. So he's
not a tight end.
Yeah. There's not many of them,
There's not. Not everyone has to be Tucker Kraft, but you do have to. You actually, now that the position has evolved more, that strength in the run game and the ability as a blocker and being able to leak out and catch, a pass or two, but not necessarily be a dynamic playmaker down the field. If you are, great. But if not, like the value that you have now in today's NFL against these lighter boxes or, what is being able to do multiple things out of those formations, but being able to basically add an extra lineman into that run blocking scheme. And it is a problem because right now, for a person like Dalton Kincaid to play, he's got to be one of your 3 best receivers. He's got to be basically, for one of those types of tight ends to play, they have to be better than your slot guy. Otherwise, they serve no purpose. That's essentially what they become in this offense right now. And Henry and Hooper aren't that either because they're not dynamic receivers and they're not able to do stuff with the ball in their hands after the catch. So you're kind of in a weird no man's land playing those guys. You kind of have to use them because that's what you've got, but it's not giving you exactly what you need. So it's something that they probably have to get after, I think, in the offseason. I don't know if you had another comment on this.
No, because I think about all the dirty work they asked Collins to do. Like, he's in many ways, he's a de facto tight end for them. And they ask him to do as much in the blocking game as they do the other guys. And he's probably, again, he's not blocking, generally not blocking defensive ends and things like that.
But that's what it is.
But he's in the mix quite a bit.
Yeah. Any leftovers, Mike, before we move on to a really scary Thursday night matchup with the Jets? Anything we have yet to address? We've talked about a lot here approaching an hour on the show.
I know it worked out for them. I didn't love the way they handled the end of the first half. I thought it was really risky.
Hated it.
Yeah, I just didn't like it. And like I said,
even though they haven't fessed up,
they won't fess up to it. But clearly the idea was we're not, because of and this is where by the way, I don't like the new kickoff rule, because you're automatically putting people at the 35-yard line, generally at the very least. It's like the kickers now are hitting bombs from 60 yards on the regular. It used to be 50. Now it's 60, 62, where like it's pretty much fairly automatic. So it's like they're trying to manage that and not give Baker the football. But it was a risky play, and I would have taken the 3 there at the end, even if you wanted to play it out that way. When you didn't get it on 3rd down, I would have been like, you know what? Send the kicking team in. We make sure we get out of here with 3. We go into halftime with the lead, and we get the ball first to start the second half. Obviously, again, another sign that maybe things are happening for you. It worked out. Everything is coming up Vrabel. It's been coming up Vrabel and the Patriots for a better part of the year.
Okay, my left, I agree 100%. I said it beforehand. I threw it out there on Twitter. Even if this works, I hate it. It's too cute by half. Like, I don't want to see that. I thought it was ridiculous. But my one leftover thought, and I texted this to you before when we said we were going to do this show, and I was like, whatever is going to happen on this show, I'm going to bitch to you about Kyle Williams playing 1,000,000 snaps and not getting the ball. And thankfully, he pops off that 72-yarder, and it's great. But he played a significant amount of snaps. It ended up being 3rd most on the team, but really close, neck and neck. Hollins was runaway number 1, but he and Diggs were pretty close there. So he was on the field quite a bit. As much credit as you want to give to Josh McDaniels for scheming things up really well with this team and really maximizing the personnel, I think it's borderline malpractice to not find ways to get somebody like that with this kind of speed and space. And I'm not talking about like just clear out routes or what he's doing, down the field. To me, I'd be looking at like what Ben Johnson did with Jameson Williams in Detroit last year. And then you saw a little bit of it again with him, these little in cuts, things like that over the middle of the field. Get me the ball. Cause you see the numbers, what he ran at the combine, he's fast. We've yet to see it. And then he catches that ball and he takes off where nobody comes in within the front. He's gone. You do not have enough home run hitters on this team to not be looking for ways to get them in space. And they have to find a way, if Williams is going to play, to do something to get the ball in his hands in a position, jet sweeps are gimmicky and don't really work a lot of the time. Find a way to get the ball in his hands and let that dude run just at least a couple of times a game. The fact that he'd play, I'd be stunned at the end of games over the last 2-3 weeks seeing his snap count. Yeah. And where they didn't even throw towards him. What are we doing here? So I don't know if you agree or disagree, but to me, it's a weapon. Find a way to use it at least a few times a game.
Yeah. So I would say this, I for the first month of the season, if you remember, at least the first 3 weeks, they were scheming up at least one. They were trying to get him a touch. They were trying to get him a touch early in games. And again, he caught a couple passes early in the year, but nothing crazy. And then there was this stretch here for the last 3-4 weeks where it feels like regression's not the right word, but like, look, at least he was getting the ball or he was close to the ball. All of a sudden it was like, no, they're not on the same page. And the Patriots wisely publicly have kept pumping him up and saying it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. But I think the last 3 or 4 weeks coming into this game, there wasn't anything that was really telling you that. There's always one snap a game with him where he does manage to win vertically, but a lot of times that he's not the primary guy on that. So like Drake would have to come off his first or second read to see that that's going to happen. So you see, like he does have the release. He can get over the top of this guy, but like it's not designed for him. And to your point, again, being out there as much as he was, he's officially listed as 2 targets. The other target was a throwaway, and he happened to be the closest receiver, but it wasn't a clear target. So when you're out there that often and you throw the ball 31 times and you only have the 1 touch, I still think that's telling you a lot about where he's at still as a rookie and still learning.
Which again, I get it, but that's why you have to you have to try to scheme it up a little bit more. Which is just again the same thing. You bring in Marcus Jones on a couple of gadget plays, that means you're going to run something funky to get the ball in his hands. Like if Kyle Williams is going to be out there 25, 30, 35 snaps in a game, one or two of those I'd be looking for. This is the Kyle Williams play. We're getting the ball in his hands and see if he can go.
It feels like that's become the Pop role. Like they're using
Pop
Pop
was only 13 snaps in this game. Yeah, exactly.
But they hit him on a reverse, little swing pass, like using him in different ways that I could see you saying like, hey, you know what? What if we subbed Pop out and put Kyle in this spot? But at this point, I think after his early struggles, Pop has sort of earned a level of trust here that Kyle doesn't have.
Yep, I see that. We're moving on quickly to the Jets. During our Patriots postgame show, somehow Taylor and Mike talked themselves into this being a potentially challenging game because the Jets can run the ball and this and that. And I got to say, like, this is one of the worst football teams I've ever seen. Mike, you know how hard it is?
Yeah.
Like, Justin Fields had 5 more yards passing at the half than you did last game.
Yeah.
That's impossible. Like, you're talking about, I mean, this is one of the easiest teams to defend in the world, because he can't get off his first read. It's like there's no threat. Garrett Wilson's not going to play in this game, most likely. There's no threat of anybody beating you here. There, I think they're just going to, I think they're going to, like, people are worried about a trap game. I think they're just going to beat the tar out of these guys.
Yeah, I don't see this as a trap game. I thought New Orleans, that could have been a trap game. I think even Tennessee, just because of all the hype going into it with the Vrabel thing, like, would you be too emotional? That could have been a possibility of a trap game where you get a little bit like too excited and you do stupid things and the next thing you know, you're screwed, But in this case, he threw for 54 yards.
This looks like the early days of football. This is a funny comment. Like, it's like, like I just learned that I could throw this thing too,
Yeah, it's they're offensively challenged. Obviously, they underwent a pretty dramatic roster makeover at the trade deadline by getting rid of Sauce and Quinnen Williams, clearly indicating, hey, we're in play for a quarterback in the next year, and we're just, our timetable does not fit some of these guys that are on our roster. The one thing I will say is I think that Aaron Glenn's actually improving as a head coach. Now, like, if you don't have enough talent, there's not much you can do to overcome some of that. But he was a liability early. I think he's gotten better the last couple of weeks, but he's going to have to cook up something really special on a short week and get his defense playing like crazed dogs in this one. Like, this has got to be the game plan of all game plans. He likes to be
defense
aggressive.
that they traded their 2 best players away from. That defense,
exactly.
Yeah.
I do wonder though if they took a look at what Bulls did and said like, ooh, you know what? Maybe we do rush 3 or 4. We spy Maye.
Sure.
We try to, flood zones and just hope that he makes a mistake or two and we're able to take advantage. But yeah, I think too offensively challenged to make this a real game.
Yeah, I would agree there. And apparently, as I said, keeping in tradition with this show, and again, people joining late wondering what the hell am I doing here? It's my network. I can do whatever I want. No.
Fair point. Cheers.
Cheers. No, Andrew Callahan is indisposed, unavailable, but you'll be seeing him soon. I'm just filling in for Mike Giardi, but I've been told there's certain traditions we have to uphold, and one of them is called "Okay, let me have it." Mike, you can let me have it. I don't care. I don't know. Here we go. Ready? I'm on the big screen. Is there a take or something I've said or done to upset you, or that you want to call out?
No, I'm going to call out the guy that you're replacing. Oh, I had a baby. I can't do a show. Whatever. You're sitting at home on your ass, scratching your whatever. Like, what are you doing? Come on. Like, you couldn't have parted ways for an hour and change to come do this wonderful program that you have so much fun doing with me. That's just, come on.
Yeah, that's it. That's the channeling.
No, I appreciate you, John. I appreciate you. You have like 3 kids, like, you got 9 things going on at the same time, and you're here. You're giving me your best effort, Callahan. I had a baby. Whatever.
It's a channeling your inner Felger. Where was Al Horford? Was it a generic birth? A generic birth, a regular birth? No, get down here. What are you doing missing a game? What? It's his fourth kid. What's he missing a game for?
Yeah, it's the fourth one. You've already been through this. What does it matter?
Come on, Al. Oh my goodness gracious. All right, we'll flip it. What's Mike Giardi's beef? I have no beef with anything that Mike Giardi did today. I have to go back to 2011, when Mike Giardi and I were working at NBC Sports Boston, and he and the affable, always sunny Tom Curran were covering the Patriots in Foxborough, and I would call, for my daily ass kicking to ask them, hey, what are we going to talk about, guys? And it was just one of these, bad, crappy Friday walkthrough training camp days, and they couldn't come up with it. And Mike's like, I don't know, the story of the day was Gerard Warren. And I'm sitting there with my producer, Jeff Capitasto, like, this can't be real. Like, this cannot be the thing. I'm going to lead my show with what happened at Patriots training camp today. And Mike and Tom are dead set on talking about Gerard Warren. So what did I make them do? I made them talk about Ocho Cinco and like trying to get an apartment or room with somebody or whatever it was, because they had just signed Ocho and that other Jack, what was his name?
Albert Hainsworth.
Wow. And so you've got these two ridiculous figures here. And I was like, just find something to talk about with them. And oh my goodness, the fights that ensued off of that. Mike and I didn't speak for a while. That carried on. That lingered. And it's still here. So yeah, if I'm going to have to let you have it over something, come on, Mike. We've been doing this long enough to know that you can't lead a show with a depth piece defensive tackle having a decent practice, right?
You're right. You're right. You're right. I would say that there were times during that era where I was working under duress. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Working under duress.
Fair enough. We'll go back to the regular view. We'll let this out here. Anyway, this was fun. But I think you can guarantee that Callahan will be back soon. And everyone will be happy to see that. One more shout out. We do want to let you know, support our sponsors, please, here at the CLNS Media Network. It helps us bring you all of this free content. And I got to tell you, today, we've already had the Pats Chat podcast with Kaid and Hurley this morning. We had Evan Marinofsky do a Bruins beat earlier today. And then we had this string of Patriots podcasts, starting with Patriots Daily with Kyles and Cadlick, followed by Barth and Hines doing Patriots Beat, and then Giardi and I came on to do this. And we're just here to talk football because it's fun. It's a good season. We're happy to talk about it again. It's not a slug. And so, yeah, when you support our sponsors, it helps. If this is the kind of thing you're into, this is the best place to do it. Download that Prize Picks app. Use the code CLNS. It's #1 daily fantasy sports app in all of North America. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. And again, if you like to play the DFS stuff, it's a great place to do it. Use code CLNS, get 50 in your lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And that's it, Mike. I got nothing else here, no, I don't think.
But you did. We did it. You said it right. This season has been such a reversal of fortune from the last few years and the slog that it was. And just there's an energy in the locker room. Like, people we try to do our best of bringing you what's happening in the locker room and sort of the energy, but sometimes that's just hard to do, or there's conversations that you can't share. It's a locker room, whatever, guys are on their own on time doing their own thing, but it's this group was all generally pulling in the same direction. And that is not what happened the last couple of years. There were a lot of independent contractors doing their own thing. And that's what happens when you go 4-13 back-to-back years. This team feels good, pulling in the right direction. And as they keep saying, John, and they're right, they haven't played their best football yet. It's still out there. Out there.
Which is interesting. And again, the buy-in has been great. I actually, for a little while, I was like, are we going over the top with Vrabel, like falling on the ground during scrums and like all of this, like, look at me, I'm one of the guys stuff. No, it's real. Even cynics like me, you got the buy-in is real. You see him on the sideline and he's holding an injured player's hands and all of those stuff. That stuff resonates. And like you even saw it before, the clips of what old lineman did he have at Tennessee that played a tough game and Vrabel's like crying, congratulating him. Yeah. I've never seen anything like that in my life. That stuff is genuine and it definitely has bled into it here and, has helped a lot, but the vibes are great. The pulling for each other is great. And you got the guy, you got the quarterback, and it makes all the difference in the world. I get excited. You want to talk about it, Mike? ask Taylor Kyles to describe his first 2 years covering this team. He literally almost like went to become a school teacher. Like, it's like, I don't want to do it because it was hard to watch. This is fun to watch. You get excited each week and going out there. So it's fun to watch. It's fun to talk about. It's fun to share it with you guys here when we're live in the chat or when you're watching and commenting and all of that stuff. So again, tune in here for Mike Giardi. You see it on this screen here. Subscribe to this podcast, but you also want to subscribe to Mike's All 32 podcast. Check that out. That comes out tomorrow, I believe. You have an episode. Yeah. Any slight preview?
My old co-host will be joining me to talk about the Jets. We'll get Will Parkinson's temperature on his Jets.
I'm not paying him.
No. If I could share some of the depressing texts that I've gotten from Will, like, because of he's living through this thing where you're watching really bad football week to week, and you're trying to find like, well, that was pretty good. You know, like it was. I joke with Taylor. We always joke like, dude, nobody cares about the fifth safety when you're 4-13. Like that, but like that's where the Jets are right now. Like, and now they've already like because of the trades, it's now diving into like, what can they do in the draft and like how can they reshape the team? I'm like, well, good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Yeah, no doubt. So check that out and check out all the great shows over here on the CLNS Media Network, throughout. And again, you can follow Mike Giardi's written stuff over at Boston Sports Journal. If you haven't subscribed already, it's the best deal in town. $50 for the entire year or $7 a month, however you want to play it. But definitely check that out. You got Mike and you got Greg covering Patriots, best duo in town, hands down. I like Phil and Tom too, but I mean, I like Doug and Andrew. It's good guys everywhere. Almost all of them do podcasts here. I got nothing bad to say about any of these guys, which is awesome. But it's really terrific coverage. And again, only $50 for the entire year. All Boston sports coverage, not just Patriots. Check it out as well. In the meantime, check out Mike's show tomorrow. I'll probably see you somewhere doing something. Basketball, who knows what. But again, subscribe to the CLNS Media Network for all this great coverage, and we will see you hopefully with Andrew Callahan back here next week. Take care.